Imagine for a second that you are floating in the middle of a vast, ink-black ocean at midnight. There are no waves, no wind, and absolutely no landmarks to guide you. Now imagine that even if you turned on a flashlight, the light simply vanished into the distance, never hitting a single surface to bounce back to your eyes. This isn't a scene from a nightmare, but it is the reality of a place that exists right now in our universe. We call it the Buddha's Void, but scientists often refer to it as the Great Nothing. It is a spherical expanse of space so incredibly empty and so terrifyingly vast that it defies almost every law of cosmic distribution we understand. If you were placed in the center of this void, you would feel like the only person in the entire universe. In fact, if our own Milky Way galaxy had been located in the center of the Buddha's void, we wouldn't have even known other galaxies existed until the 1960s. That is how isolated this region of space is. Tonight, we are venturing into the darkest corridor of the cosmos to understand why this place exists, what might be hiding inside it, and why the sheer scale of it keeps astronomers up at night. When we look up at the night sky, we see a tapestry of stars. We've been taught that the universe is teeming with life, energy, and matter. But the truth is that most of the universe is actually empty space. However, even by the standards of empty space, the Buddha's void is an anomaly, spanning nearly 330 million light-years in diameter. It represents about 0.27% of the observable universe. To put that in perspective, a typical region of space that size should contain roughly 10,000 galaxies. In the Buddha's void, we have found fewer than 60. It is a cosmic desert, a wasteland where the laws of gravity seem to have been pushed to their absolute limits. But how does something this big and this empty just happen? To understand that, we have to look at the very fabric of our reality, the cosmic web. The universe isn't just a random soup of galaxies floating around. If you could zoom out far enough, way beyond the reach of our best telescopes, you would see that the universe looks like a giant spiderweb or a neural network. This is the cosmic web. It's made of long gaseous filaments and massive clusters of dark matter that act as the scaffolding for everything we see. Galaxies tend to gather along these filaments like bright beads on a string. Where these filaments intersect, you get massive superclusters of galaxies. But in between these strings are the gaps. These are the cosmic voids. Most voids are relatively small, maybe 20 or 30 million light-years across. They are a natural part of the universe's structure. But the Buddha's void is different. It's a supervoid. It is so large that it shouldn't exist according to our current models of how the universe grew after the Big Bang. It's like finding a pothole the size of an entire continent in the middle of a perfectly paved highway. It just doesn't fit the math. So, let's talk about the discovery. In 1981, an astronomer named Robert Kirshner and his team were conducting a survey of galactic redshifts. They were mapping out where galaxies were in relation to one another, expecting to see the usual distribution. Instead, they hit a wall of nothing. It was as if they were looking through a telescope and suddenly someone put a black cloth over the lens, only for them to realize that the cloth was actually a massive gap in reality. At first, they thought their equipment was failing. They couldn't believe that such a massive volume of space could be devoid of the glowing islands we call galaxies. But as they expanded their search, the reality set in. They had found the Great Nothing. Since that discovery, the mystery has only deepened. One of the most haunting things about the Buddha's void isn't just that it's empty. It's how those few galaxies that do live there behave. Imagine those 60 or so galaxies as lone survivors in a wasteland. They are spaced so far apart that they could never interact with each other. In our neighborhood, the local group, the Milky Way and Andromeda are constantly dancing toward each other due to gravity. But in the Buddha's void, the galaxies are isolated. They are some of the most pristine, undisturbed objects in the universe because they have never been bumped, bruised, or merged with another galaxy. Some scientists call them field galaxies, and they provide a unique look at how a galaxy evolves when it is left entirely alone in the dark. But this brings up a massive problem for physicists. If the universe started out relatively uniform, how did such a massive pocket of nothingness form? One theory suggests that the Buddha void wasn't always one giant void. Instead, it might be the result of several smaller voids merging together. Think of it like soap bubbles in a kitchen sink. When two bubbles touch, they can pop and merge into one larger bubble. If this happened on a cosmic scale, it would explain the size. But even that theory has holes. The sheer amount of time it would take for gravity to clear out an area that large is almost longer than the age of the universe itself. This suggests that something else might be at play, something we don't fully understand about the expansion of the universe or the nature of dark energy. Speaking of things we don't understand, we have to talk about the A-tube. When astronomers mapped the few galaxies inside the void, they found something strange. They aren't scattered randomly. They seem to be arranged in a loose, tube-like structure that runs right through the center of the void. It's almost like a bridge of galaxies crossing a dark abyss. Why would they align like that? Is it a remnant of a cosmic filament that didn't quite disappear? Or is it something more intentional? When you start looking at the gaps in our knowledge, the mind naturally wanders to the more out there possibilities. For instance, there is a very famous, albeit highly speculative, theory regarding the Boom's void that involves an advanced civilization. It's called the Kardashev scale theory. The idea is that a civilization could become so advanced that it consumes the entire energy output of a star, then a stellar system, and finally an entire galaxy. To do this, they would build something called a Dyson sphere, a massive shell around a star to capture every bit of light it emits. If a civilization were to expand across a region of space, wrapping every star in a Dyson sphere, that entire region would go dark to outside observers. From millions of light years away, it would look like a void. The stars and galaxies would still be there, but their light would be trapped inside these artificial shells. While most mainstream scientists don't subscribe to this, it remains one of the most popular as science fiction explanations for why the Buddha's void is so unnaturally dark. It's a chilling thought that we might be looking at the footprint of a civilization so massive that they have effectively turned off a portion of the observable universe. But even without aliens, the reality of the Buddha's void is plenty scary. Think about the isolation. If you were on a planet orbiting a star in one of those central galaxies, the night sky would be terrifying. On Earth, we can see thousands of stars with the naked eye. We see the glowing band of the Milky Way. We see our neighbors. In the middle of the Buddha's void, your night sky would be total, absolute darkness. You might see one or two very faint, distant smudges of light if you were lucky. Your scientists would grow up believing that their galaxy was the entire universe. They would have no concept of a cosmic web or a multiverse, because there would be no evidence for it. They would be confined to a small island of light in an infinite sea of shadow. It makes you wonder how much we are currently missing just because of our own position in the cosmos. Are we too sitting in a larger void that we haven't identified yet? The fear scientists have when looking at the Boom's void isn't just about what is missing, it's about what it says about the future of our universe. We know that the universe is expanding, and that expansion is accelerating thanks to dark energy. As galaxies move further apart, the voids between them grow larger and emptier. In a way, the Buddha's void is a preview of the end of everything. Billions or trillions of years from now, the expansion of space will have pushed every galaxy so far away from every other galaxy that the entire universe will look like the Buddha's void. Every galaxy will become an island, untethered and alone, until the last stars flicker out in the total darkness. The Great Nothing isn't just a place, it's a prophecy. When we try to image the void, we use different wavelengths of light: infrared, X-ray, radio waves. Yet, even with our most sensitive instruments, the results remain consistently sparse. Some suggest that the void might be filled with dark matter that for some reason hasn't clumped together to form stars. Others suggest it's a cold spot in the cosmic microwave background radiation, a literal bruise on the fabric of the universe left over from the Big Bang. There is even a wild theory in quantum physics that suggests these voids could be regions where our universe is bumping into another parallel universe, creating a sort of pressure gap where matter cannot easily exist. Every time we point a new, more powerful telescope towards Buddhas, we expect to find more. We expect the mystery to be solved. But with the James Webb Space Telescope and future observatories, we are finding that the empty space is even emptier than we anticipated in some areas, while being strangely dense in others. The void challenges the cosmological principle. This is the idea that, on a large enough scale, the universe should look the same no matter where you are. It's what allows us to make laws about physics that apply to the whole universe. But the Buddha's void is a giant middle finger to that principle. It says that the universe is not uniform. It says that there are places where the rules are stretched or perhaps do not apply in the way we think. As we move deeper into the 21st century, our maps of the universe are getting better. But the Buddha's void remains the biggest "Here be dragons" sign on the map. It represents the limits of our understanding. Is it a natural result of gravity and time? Is it an optical illusion caused by something we don't understand about light travel? Or is it something far more mysterious? The reason it's the darkest region of space isn't just because of the lack of photons, but because of the lack of answers. It is a vacuum of knowledge. Imagine a ship traveling at the speed of light. Even at that impossible speed, it would take you 330 million years to cross the Bhute's void. 330 million years of seeing absolutely nothing outside your window. No stars, no planets, no nebulae. Just a constant, unwavering blackness. For a human mind, that level of sensory deprivation and scale is almost impossible to process. This is why the Bhute's void is so often the subject of cosmic horror. It reminds us that for all our pride in discovering thousands of exoplanets and mapping the stars, we are still just infants, sitting on a tiny grain of sand, looking out at a desert that is too large to comprehend. Scientists are afraid to look at it, because it forces them to confront the possibility that our standard model of cosmology is incomplete. If we can't explain why a whole 300 million light-years wide exists, how can we claim to understand how the universe began or how it will end? Every time an astronomer looks through their lens at the Bhute's constellation, they are reminded of the immense gaps in our collective wisdom. Let's look at the dark side of this literally. In astronomy, darkness usually means one of two things. Either there is nothing there to emit light, or there is something there blocking the light. Could there be massive clouds of non-reflective dust hiding thousands of galaxies in the void? We have checked for that using radio astronomy, which can peer through dust. The results? Still empty. This suggests that the void is genuinely a hole in the distribution of matter. There is a specific term for this in fluid dynamics and cosmology: underdensity. But underdensity feels like a polite way of saying missing. Where did the matter go? Did it ever exist there? Or was it pulled out by the surrounding superclusters, like the Hercules supercluster and the Coma supercluster, acting as massive gravitational magnets sucking the life out of the center? If the surrounding superclusters are indeed stealing matter from the Bhute's region, then the void is effectively a graveyard of potential. Every atom of hydrogen that could have become a star in that region was instead dragged away to feed the heavyweights of the cosmic web. This creates a feedback loop. The emptier the void gets, the less gravitational pull it has to keep its remaining matter. The larger the surrounding clusters get, the more power they have to pull away what's left. It's a the rich get richer scenario on a galactic scale. This would mean the Bhute's void is actively growing, expanding its borders and consuming the rural areas of the universe to feed the urban galactic centers. This process of void growth is one of the most fascinating areas of study today. It tells us that the universe is becoming more organized, but also more fragmented. We are moving away from a smooth, hot, messy beginning toward a future of extreme contrasts. Massive, dense nodes of gravity and infinite, empty halls of silence. The Bhute's void is just an early achiever in this process. It has reached a state of emptiness that the rest of the universe won't achieve for eons. In a way, it is a time machine looking into the ultimate future. But why focus on the darkness? Why does it capture our imagination so much? Perhaps it's because humans are evolutionarily hardwired to fear the dark. In the dark, predators hide. In the dark, we lose our primary sense. When we project that fear onto the canvas of the universe, the Bhute's void becomes the ultimate dark forest. It is the place where the light doesn't reach, and in the absence of light, our minds fill in the gaps with monsters, advanced civilizations, or the chilling realization of our own insignificance. Think back to the tubes of galaxies we mentioned earlier. If there is a bridge of galaxies crossing this void, what is it like for them? If you were in a galaxy in the middle of that tube, you would see your neighboring galaxies in a line across the sky. But if you looked up or down relative to that bridge, you would see the infinite abyss. It would be like living on a single tightrope stretched across the Grand Canyon. It creates a sense of cosmic vertigo. These Begridge galaxies are the only thing keeping the void from being a total loss for matter. They are the final holdouts against the overwhelming nothingness. As we wrap our minds around the sheer scale of the great nothing, we have to acknowledge the bravery of the astronomers who spend their lives studying it. It's not easy to convince a committee to give you time on a multi-billion-dollar telescope just to look at nothing. Most researchers want to look at the bright stuff, the exploding supernovae, the swirling black holes, the colorful nebulae. Looking at a void is an exercise in patience and a test of faith in the laws of physics. But it's in these empty spaces that the most profound truths often hide. If we can solve the mystery of the Buddha's void, we might unlock the secrets of dark energy, the force that is currently pushing our universe apart at an ever-increasing rate. Dark energy is the fuel of the void. It is what creates the pressure to keep these bubbles from collapsing. In fact, some models suggest that within these giant voids, dark energy might behave differently than it does near dense matter. The Boom's void could be a natural laboratory for the most elusive force in the universe. So, the next time you look up at the stars, try to find the constellation of Buddhas. It looks like a giant kite in the sky, not far from the Big Dipper. When you find it, look at the space just to its side. You won't see anything. No stars, no glow. But you'll know that you are looking at a hole in the universe 300 million light-years wide. You are looking at the great nothing, a place so quiet, so isolated, and so dark that it challenges everything we think we know about our place in the cosmos. It is a reminder that the universe doesn't just consist of the things we see, but also the terrifying, beautiful silence in between. And as we continue to peer into that darkness, we might eventually find that the void is not as empty as it seems. Or, perhaps more frighteningly, we might find that it is exactly as empty as we fear, leaving us with the realization that in the grand scheme of the universe, light is the exception, and the darkness is the rule. The Buddha's void stands as a monument to that darkness. It is the deep breath the universe takes between its bright, busy moments. Whether it's a result of cosmic evolution, a graveyard of matter, or something far more exotic, it remains the most haunting region of space we have ever discovered. As our telescopes get better and our questions get deeper, we will keep looking into the great nothing, hoping that one day the darkness will finally blink. But for now, it remains a silent, expanding mystery, a place where the stars are few, the light is dim, and the distance is infinite. It is the darkest region of space, and while we might be afraid to look too closely, we can't seem to turn our eyes away. Because in the end, to understand the light, you first have to understand the dark. And there is no place in the universe darker than the Buddha's void. Wait, before we finish, there is one more thing to consider. If the universe is billions of years old, and these voids are growing, what happens when they all meet? What happens when the great nothing isn't just one region, but the whole sky? Scientists calculate that eventually, even the light from our closest neighbors will be unable to reach us because the space in between is expanding faster than the light can travel. At that point, every spot in the universe will be its own Buddha's void. We are living in a temporary golden age of cosmic visibility. We are lucky to live in a time where we can even see that a void exists. One day, the universe will be so empty that voids won't even be a concept anymore, because emptiness will be the only thing left. That is the true weight of the Buddha's void. It's not just a weird spot on a map. It's a glimpse of the inevitable. It's the universe in its purest, most stripped-down form. No stars to distract us, no planets to harbor us. Just the cold, infinite stretch of space-time. It's the ultimate frontier, and maybe that's why we're so drawn to it. It's the one place where we can truly see the universe for what it is, without the glitter of the stars getting in the way. It is the great nothing, and it is waiting for us to understand it. Until then, we will keep watching. We will keep mapping the few lonely galaxies that call that darkness home. We will keep theorizing about the mergers of voids and the influence of dark energy, and we will keep wondering if, somewhere in that 300 million light-year expanse, something else is looking back at us, wondering why we live in such a crowded, noisy corner of the universe. After all, if you spent your entire existence in the absolute silence of the Buddha's void, our galaxy, with its billions of stars and screaming radio waves, might be the most terrifying thing you could imagine. To them, we are the anomaly. We are the strange, glowing cluster in a universe of peace and quiet. Perspective is a funny thing when you're dealing with the infinite, but whether you find the Buddha's void peaceful or terrifying, one thing is certain: the universe is far more complex than we can see with our eyes. The darkness isn't just an absence, it's a presence of its own. It's a structure, a history, and a future. And the great nothing is its masterpiece. As we move forward into the unknown, we take that knowledge with us, knowing that the most important discoveries might not be the stars we find, but the space we find between them. The Boom's void is there, a silent giant in the dark, reminding us that there is always more to the story than what meets the light. The exploration of these voids is the next great chapter in astronomy. We are moving past the era of just looking at what glows. We are starting to study the shadows. And in those shadows, we are finding the blueprints of the cosmos itself. The Buddhist void might be the darkest region of space, but it is also one of the most illuminating. It forces us to ask the big questions, to challenge our assumptions, and to look reality in the face, even when that reality is a vast, empty abyss. So the next time you find yourself in a dark place, whether it's a quiet room or a moonless night, remember the Buddha's void. Remember that even in the most absolute darkness, there is a story, there is a structure, there is a reason, and even if we are too afraid to look at it sometimes, the darkness is always there, holding the rest of the universe together in its cold, silent embrace. It's not just a void, it's the great nothing, the most mysterious and haunting part of our celestial home. And it's not going anywhere, it's only getting bigger. The mystery of the Buddha's void is a testament to the fact that we are still just beginning our journey into the stars. There are regions as big as entire universes that we barely understand. There are gaps in our maps that could hide entire realities. And as long as places like the Great Nothing exist, there will be a reason to keep looking up, to keep wondering, and to keep pushing the boundaries of what we know. The dark is not something to be feared, but something to be explored, because only by standing on the edge of the abyss can we truly see how bright our own light really is. In the vast, sprawling epic of the universe, the Buddha's void is a chapter written in invisible ink. We are finally learning how to read it. And what it tells us is that the universe is far stranger, far emptier, and far more magnificent than we ever dared to dream. It is a place of absolute isolation. But in that isolation, it reveals the grand design of everything. The Great Nothing is truly the greatest mystery of all. And as we continue to unlock its secrets, we find that the more we learn about the darkness, the more we understand the light. The Buddha void is the ultimate cosmic mirror, reflecting back at us our own curiosity, our own fears, and our own relentless drive to know the unknown. So here's to the darkness, here's to the voids, and here's to the great nothing that reminds us just how precious every single star really is. In a universe that can produce something as vast and empty as the Buddha's void, the fact that we exist at all is the most incredible story of all. We are the light that dared to shine in the face of the great nothing, and that is a journey that is only just beginning.